Welcome to the third episode of our Rangers of a Broken World series, everyone. This series, we welcomed Cat McDonald to join us to learn all about this brand new post-apocalyptic game of theirs that is currently playtesting through Evil Hat. In today's episode, we begin our discussion series, but before we get to that, here's what to expect in our calls to action. You can join me back here after the show to hear all about the latest One Shot Network news, including welcoming yet another brand new show to the network, Roleplay Retcon. We will also have information about our Patreon, as well as the normal patron thank yous. With all of that out of the way, enjoy the show, everybody.
Welcome back to our discussion episodes. Last time we finished our session 0 for our Rangers of a Broken World series. This episode, we will be discussing the character creation process. We're excited to welcome back Cat McDonald, the designer of Rangers of a Broken World. Cat, do you want to reintroduce yourself for everybody at home? Give us your pronouns again. And then please tell us about the character you made.
Hello. Yes, I want to do all these things. I am Cat. I typically use they, them pronouns. I am the host king of the podcast Sort of Symphonies, where my friends have been playtesting Rangers of a Broken World since it was Heroic Chord. I am the choir master of Roar to Heaven, where different friends play a different game and are punished for it. I am the game designer at Peach Garden Games. I write lots of games, and Rangers of a Broken World is the one that's being picked up by Evil Hat and is in open playtest currently as of time of recording. I'm so excited. My character is Baladian Shearstan. They are a wailing arcanist, which means they have climbed the last tooth, a treacherous peak haunted by noble demons. Baladian is a geology aficionado, a gem cutter by trade, who tends to solve problems by noticing things in the world around them, not maybe necessarily by acting. They have a familiar called Dendra, who appears as a phantom of dendritic copper in a big chunk of quartz crystal that Baladian carries. And they're a medic. That's their crisis specialty. That's his, I forgot. He's my little dude. He's my little dude.
A little cute dude.
I misgendered my dude. I misgendered my boy.
My sweet boy. Ryan, do you want to tell us about your character, please?
Yes. I made Nebula Darkwalker, the title navigator. She, they pronouns. Nebula is a very extra individual swashbuckling type. She made the voyage to the Madness Gate, I believe.
Yeah, Tidal Augustine.
In order to become this Tidal navigator. And she has some amazing abilities with the wind. Her signature spell is Tornadic Revelations. And she is inspiring in a crisis. So she likes to be kind of the main character in her own story.
And everyone else's too.
Yeah, everybody else's story as well. But she also likes to just kind of chill out, playing kind of the chess equivalent, very low-key, no stakes at times. Amelia, how about your character?
I made a totally normal, very well-adjusted person named Morrigan Grimm, the Enduring Legionnaire. So I have a little army of the dead kind of hanging out, helping me out. And also, I'm a fashion designer. Let's see here. They are clear-headed in a crisis. And signature spell is Enveloping Shadows. I, sort of trained as a soldier, can do soldier things, but my real passion is creating excellent fashion. I have an ability to work with metal, and I like to incorporate that into my designs for the rich and famous of the world.
Amazing. Well, let's go ahead and dive right into a segment that we are calling D20 for Your Thoughts.
D20 for Your Thoughts?
So in this segment, we talk to our guests about their thoughts on character creation, how it relates to the system, to other games, all kinds of stuff. First, the most cliche question of all RPG podcasts. How did you start playing games?
I had a friend in middle school who wanted to play D&D and introduced everyone within arm's reach to D&D. And he is a tall lad with long arms. Swept up myself, my sister, all of us. And my sister and I were very, very lucky because our group was not typically the kind of toxic nerd group you hear horror stories about.
Yeah.
Because my friend literally reached for everybody that he could reach to play D&D with. And it wasn't just D&D either. The same friend introduced us to Palladium's Heroes Unlimited and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and to Vampire the Masquerade. Vampire the Masquerade was a revelation for me because I always say that like D&D taught me how to play D&D, but Vampire taught me how to play role-playing games.
Yeah. And that's a distinct difference.
Truly it is. Because Vampire taught me that games were capable of questioning the fundamental structure of Dungeons and Dragons, which I had not seen done. I mean, Palladium has a lot of the same underlying assumptions.
Yeah.
Even though the structure is obviously very, very different. And what brought me into game design was a different friend in middle school saying, hey, I had a dream that in D&D, 15 strength was a 15 and not a plus 2. And I was like, what? And he was like, I think I'm going to design my own game. And I was like,
you can do that?
Okay, good. And then later on, he would come to me and just be like, hey, our friend is the most annoying playtester. How do I stop him from doing this behavior? And the more he would come to me with these questions, the more fun I would have trying to figure out how to write rules that would prevent our friend's annoying behaviors.
Oh.
And before I knew it, I was on board playtesting, I was co-designing, and that's really what got me started in game design was my friend's weird dream and my other friends' behaviors. And
that's amazing.
Sean kept playtesting with us too. An invaluable playtester is somebody who can be just truly very annoying.
I feel like that's what a lot of playtesting needs, though, is somebody to go in there and be like, let me see what I can do with this, so that you have to write rules that create
exactly
the feeling that you want at a table.
Valuable.
Yeah.
Truly, that's what made him so wonderful as a playtester, is he truly was such an unrestrained power gamer that, like, we knew that if Sean took something on every character, we couldn't. We had to change it. And if Sean never took something, we needed to change it. It wasn't competitive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really valuable resource because you can have anybody that comes and is like, okay, these are the rules and I will play exactly within this. But I need to know if there are parts where it doesn't work and parts where, or that nobody's using. Like, what is this bloat? Is this, Yeah, that's a truly valuable person to have.
The thing is, as a designer, no matter how twisted your brain is not twisted in all the possible ways a brain can be twisted.
Right. Which is why you do playtesting. Yeah,
I would write something very twisted, and then Sean would be like, but what if? And do something Sean twisted with it. And I'd be like, oh no, I didn't see this coming. I had no concept of this. Truly wonderful playtester. Truly amazing guy.
That's a great way to start right off the bat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just like having our mutual friend be like, I need to stop him. How do I stop him? And just gradually coming in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We have Sean-proofed the game.
We never Sean-proofed.
You're like, there is no game that is fully Sean-proofed.
We tried so hard to Sean-proof that game. We did not manage it. We just couldn't swing it.
Uh-huh. Oh, it's so good. Kat, what sort of process or mechanic do you really love to see in a character creation system?
Oh, I like when the game is fun to. I'm okay. No, sometimes I start talking in the hope that my brain will catch me.
Yeah, like eventually the sentence it'll catch up and it'll go somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, that fully didn't happen. Yeah. That absolutely didn't.
I'm going to start talking, and hopefully by the time the words get to my mouth, they will stop.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I like when character creation has just like built a balance between built-in aspects of your character's personality and blank space to build into. Like a place to build off and a space to build into in the right proportion really makes character creation sing for me. Because I've played games that are nothing but free space, and I can find that very daunting and overwhelming. And I've also played games that are way too ironclad, and it's like, where's the room for me in this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like the right proportion of a diving board and a swimming pool, I guess.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot on the show, is like having and finding that balancing, like the right amount of scaffolding. So that you know you're in a window kind of, because like having a blank sheet of paper in front of you, especially when you have that sort of overwhelming feeling or that like analysis paralysis, is too much. But yeah, I don't want a game that's like hands me a pre-made character essentially and is like, you can pick out a name and tell me what color your shirt is. Like, no.
Yeah.
I want to make my own character that I'm passionate about playing, but tell me what kind of direction we're going in. Like, give me some vibes to work with.
And another thing though is that I really do want something to say about the mechanics as well as about the flavor. I always find it kind of a bummer in a game where like I can reskin things and I can reflavor things, but I can't make like nuts and bolts choices because I am in my little heart a power gamer.
Yeah.
And if there are no nuts and bolts choices for me to make, I do not feel like I've made a character, no matter how much backstory and fashion design and name I've done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to have some of those levers to pull that say, like, not only who you are, but how you interact with the world, which is really what a lot of what mechanics is about, is like, okay, in a situation, how does my character do things? And so, you know, even a little bit here of like, I like when it's, you know, like, okay, you have this many points to kind of arrange in your stats or something like that, where it's not, you know, a ton of math and a ton of derived stats and all of that kind of stuff, but I still have a little bit of a knob to kind of turn and say, I want more here or less here, or, you know, because I especially like to make characters that are bad at things sometimes. And so I want the ability to do that, to have that option to be bad at stuff.
Sometimes you can be bad at stuff. It's good.
It's interesting.
It makes for good storytelling.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. We did mention this kind of at the beginning, and it's something we like to talk about a lot, is the design of character sheets. Since it's like kind of, in a lot of cases, it's a lot, I can do this. I can make words happen. In a lot of cases, it is the first interaction people have with a game, even before reading the rules sometimes. So what kind of information did you want to get across? What kind of story did you want people to get from the character sheets? How did you decide what things did or didn't go on a character sheet?
Well, I am very bad at character sheets. I typically do my own layout. I'm a self-taught layout designer, and I'm fairly good. I wouldn't I wouldn't call myself as good as the like pros, but I get by. But I am hopeless when it comes to character sheets, truly hopeless. So luckily I had input from Chris Viana, who is the art director for this bad boy at Evil Hat. And Chris was the one who made a lot of these choices. The decision to put Key on a little musical staff was Chris. And I think it's so cute.
I love it.
I do love
so
that that Key section.
It's a little whimsical.
Definitely sticks out. Exactly.
It's a little, I wanted there to be space for people to put what is human about their character as well as what is mechanical about their character.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a very important theme of the game, really, is that these are whole people. These are flawed, vulnerable, wounded people, but they are still heroes.
Yeah.
And so it was important to me that the character sheet have room for the human aspect of these whole people.
I think it's clear. This is a thing that I come back to every time, and I'm sure our listeners are probably annoyed to hear it at this point, but I know where to put everything on this character sheet, and that is extremely important to me. There was no part of character creation where I was like, where do I write this down? It was all very clear where it goes. I like that the sort of number of things have very clear checkboxes or circles to fill in. I like the little steps of casting a spell and the info about skill checks and things, having that right there in front of you on the sheet. I like that even the second page is just a lot of lines, but it's where you fill in all of that kind of flavor text and things. So there's room to put that. It feels like something where I can get down the information that I need to play the game, but there's also room to put that extra stuff too. So I'm not constantly having to flip back to the book and be like, what does this mean? What is it for? When do I use it? But that was still also clean. Despite having all of that on there, it's still clean.
Chris did an incredible job. I could not have pulled this off in a million years. I couldn't myself.
I think about that. Like, I've looked at so many character sheets and I've read so many games.
Yeah.
And it still like blows my mind when people do character sheets well, because I'm like, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You and me both. A good character sheet is a triumph of visual design and should be celebrated as such.
Well, and because it is that sort of first interaction that you have with a game, when I look at a character sheet that's difficult to fill out, I start to worry about the difficulty of the game. Because it's like, if I can't even figure out the entry point to the game, like the first part that you're supposed to do, how am I going to play this? And obviously, like, it's not true. Like, there are plenty of games that have not great character sheets and are still very fun and easy to play. But it is that, like, judge a book by its cover, which you're not supposed to do, but is a thing that we all do because we are visual people. And so having something that's approachable right at the start is so, so important.
And it also does have to be very functional, because this is how you keep your character.
Yes. Yeah. It's something that you're going to continue using throughout the whole game. And it does feel like it has room for that expansion too. You know, as your character grows and changes, there's plenty of space to do that.
Yeah.
Did you have stuff that you were like, I don't think that we need this on there, or something that you were like, this needs to be the thing that's front and center?
No, I think given the like overview of character creation, Chris was able to kind of like, I did an overview and I was like, this should be X lines. This should have a few extra lines so people can write down the text of the ability.
Right.
But Chris nailed it, truly.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. A+, Chris, if you're listening. 10 out of 10, 5 stars. Would create again.
Yay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I really enjoyed the flow of it. I enjoyed like being able to have all of the information kind of right there, and knowing that like the skills, you don't have to have like a how good I am at each skill just to know that I have the skill is fantastic. Just to have a nice full page right there. Plus, it looks gorgeous. I love the coloring.
I do.
Of the sheets.
I love the color
The-
scheme in this book. Like, just beautiful.
Oh, me too. Me too. The color scheme. And she fully read my mind. I was like, I sent a couple like touchstones, and then what Chris sent back was exactly in my heart and in my mind the whole time.
Don't you love that? It's like my favorite thing about commissioning artists and designers and things is that like you send them a few words and then you're like, how did you even know I wanted this? Like,
yeah,
you're saying, like, that's better than I could have even pictured in my brain.
To me, the charm point is the tangly Art Nouveau borders.
Yeah.
They're just a little tanglier than a usual Art Nouveau border, which makes them feel a little bit wilder. To emphasize like the natural world and its place in this game. But they're still like graceful. They're just a little bit chaotic. I love them.
Yes.
They're easily my favorite feature of this, but this whole design truly was knocked out of the park, and I could not be more pleased with it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, how do we think character creation for Rangers of a Broken World stacks up to other systems we've played or created characters for?
Yeah. How do we?
Yeah. This is the question usually like Ryan and I ask the guest, and then Ryan and I are like, let us tell you the answer to this question. I think it was smooth, it was easy, but it was still individualized, which is it's a difficult balance to strike again, right? It's like that scaffolding. And I think there are lots of games where you can really deeply individualize a character. Looking at you, Heroes Unlimited, Palladium. Like you can pick every little tiny piece that you want. That's awesome. But it's so many pieces to pick, and it's not streamlined. It's not easy. It's a lot of flipping back and forth to find things.
Listener, the P word was said, so I had to do a dolphin giggle and frantically clap my hands.
Yes. Yeah. I think it allows for individuality, but it also was contained partly by those classes. And I felt like even though I picked my class and that kind of streamlined my decisions, everything that I got to pick in there still felt like it was my own choice. So even though it wasn't a broad, like, okay, now you can go pick any of these skills that you want. It's like, these are the things that you get in your class. It still felt like I had a lot of buttons and levers and things that I could play around with within that scaffolding.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really enjoyed like the big things that you had full control over that like really defined your character, the key, the signature spell.
Yes. I'm really into those like evocative word decisions. Like those are so powerful, and the things that come out of them from just like a simple list of words.
Yeah, the spell notes as well were fantastic, and how they were tailored to each class. Definitely very nice vibes for the character themselves coming out of that.
Yeah, I think they'd be really exciting in play too, to be able to just like grab those words without, like having a very specific line by line, like, like Legend of the Five Rings, where you have specific spells and it's like, it does this. And, it uses this element to do this thing. Here's the outcome. Whereas this one, it was like, here's a mishmash of words, and then you can pick two, and then you tell me what that does. And so it's like, it's much more tailored to the situation and to your specific version of that character. Like if somebody else picked this Legionnaire, it would not look anything like mine, despite the fact that I didn't make a lot of decisions. But they were important decisions, right? I think that's the big difference.
I'm so glad you feel that way.
Yeah,
truly.
It doesn't have to be a lot of decisions, but the ones that you're asked to make are in important places.
That's yes. I think it's very important for people to feel like, regardless of the things they don't have control over who your character is and how they solve their problems is a big part of feeling ownership of a character.
Mhm.
So I'm really
Mhm.
glad that came through.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that depending on what questions you answer for the backstory questions or what items you decide to take, like your character will be very different from anybody else that takes that exact same class.
Yeah.
Like my title navigator sure is the like over the top anime protagonist like sort of deal, but still somewhat a swashbuckler. But you could go full like roguishly handsome like swashbuckling type that constantly talks during battle sort of deal, right?
Good.
And you could also be like
And,
old
like-
man who's been out at sea forever and
Yeah,
knows
the
all the
grizzled old
horrors
veteran
and
captain.
yeah.
Yeah.
And all
There's
of those would be
like
very
so many
valid
different ways to take that.
interpretations. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And it guides you into that sort of path and lets you say, hey, how rough and tumble is this character? How like how good are they with people? It's not just I'm a paladin, so therefore I have to follow this code of ethics and now I'm just like every single other paladin in the world.
Right.
Yeah. I think those things are so much more important for a person to have ownership over.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm so glad to hear these things from you all. It makes me happy.
I think those are the things that like make a character playable and inhabitable. Like it's, having that ability to kind of relate to some of those things. I really like playing with like neurodivergency as not as a stat, but like as a real factor. Because I think there are games out there that try and, not very successfully in my opinion, make those into stats. And it's like, nobody wants to take bipolar as a stat. Like, why would you don't want that. But I can make it a realistic part of my character and not have it be, like, oh, I got, negative points or whatever so that I can get points back to take this other skill, which is what I see in a lot of games is like, oh yeah, your character can have disabilities or illnesses or whatever so that you can be better at other things later on. And it's like, well, that's not really how it works, I mean, I guess in my case it does because I do have highs and lows, but in a lot of cases, like it's just a downside. It's just what it is.
Truly.
And the fact that like I can choose how much to interact with those things too, that it's not like, well, you did too much and then now everything's over and you can't do anything at all, to the point where like it's not fun, but it is still part of my kids, it is part of who I am and a thing I think about.
Now you have enough extra points that you can have blackmail material on a high-ranking member of the Crane clan.
Right.
And who knows, that's going to come in handy. And you wouldn't have that if you weren't bipolar. So
right. Yeah, for sure.
I agree entirely. I wanted to portray these things as a neutral, as a value neutral aspect of a whole human being.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and you talked about that in the beginning, sort of that like backstory of like, you have climbed this mountain. That is decided. That is, like, and I think like that can be as much of your story as you do or don't want it to be, like you never have to explain why you did it or how you did it if you don't want to. On the other hand, I think, if it is something that's really important to your character and like a big heroic moment that you were able to do this, that's awesome. Yeah. But it can also just be a fact that like, yep, you did that.
There was a character in a playtest who had a severe leg injury that didn't heal properly and used a cane as a mobility aid. She was a whaling arcanist, and her player decided that on the mountain she had incurred this injury. Yeah, and so, but that was actually a very early playtest where I realized, oh, this stat line lets you play somebody who walks with a limp and does not care, and that was very affirming to me. That like. At no time was this character penalized for needing a cane. Yeah. It didn't come up.
Well, and I like that, and for my character too, the result of doing too much is being depressed. Because as a person with bipolar disorder, that is just a fact. When I get too stressed, when life is a lot, I will start a depressive episode. Like that's the reality. If I do too much, that is what happens to me.
Yeah.
And so like
I get
having that be
depression
part of the
hangovers.
game, but not, you know, like totally defining my character, not meaning that I can't play this character, but that it is a real thing that I have to factor in.
Yeah.
Which is how it is in my daily life. Like, do I want to stretch myself past that point or not? Is it worth it?
Yeah. And that's ultimately my big thing was with the athletics skill, because I was like, listen, I've watched wheelchair basketball and I am very bad at basketball. A person who,
Right.
has some joint pain, is physically fully abled. I'm way worse at basketball than wheelchair basketball players.
Dude,
way
have you
worse.
seen wheelchair
Absolutely.
rugby? It's bananas.
They would
Like,
put me in the
They're
toilet and then the
full
dumpster.
force. All like it. Oh, I could
Yeah.
no.
So I have no leg to stand on if I'm going to say that a person with a physical disability is penalized in athletics.
Right.
No, I am penalized in athletics because
Right.
I am not athletic.
Yeah. Like again,
So-
you do it differently, but that doesn't mean you can't do it.
Exactly.
yeah.
A person who requires a mobility aid can and has, like, it's been proven
Has
in our real
proven
world repeatedly.
Is currently
can be
proving as
athletic
the
with mobility
Paralympics are going
aids.
on. Like,
Right.
yeah. Well, and I think role-playing games also give us a chance to be empathetic in ways that we can't otherwise. Like, they give you a chance to inhabit roles that you wouldn't normally. And, you know, like, I know that there's definitely some sensitivity around those things of like, can I play someone who is, you know, like in a role that I don't have? But I think it does give people space to explore what does that look like if I have a disability, if I, you know, in like a safe space to sort of explore that living in someone else's shoes for a little while.
Yeah.
Kind of related. How does the process of character creation set you up for what playing the game is going to be like? Because sometimes we have games that are totally separate. Like you make your character in D&D and then you play D&D, and those are not related in any way, shape, or form. How do you feel like this kind of fits into that? Like, what do we learn about playing the game by making characters?
I think I'm hoping that character creation sets the precedent that, first of all, that your character is a whole person and that you are not only cleared to, but warmly encouraged to lean into your character's flaws and illnesses and trauma as value neutral parts of their existence, as part of them as heroes. But key and picking your spell notes is also a prelude to casting spells, which is also kind of free association. I describe it as being like fridge poetry. I supply a list of words, you choose one of my words and one of yours, combine them to make a 2-word phrase and tell me what it does. So being exposed, especially to key, where it's just like, freely, what do you think your character is about, gets you into the state of mind where you're just like, I'm the one who gets to decide how things go here.
Yeah. I think the
I'm
sense
the one
that
who
I
gets to decide
get,
what this means.
Yeah. I think the sense that I get, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, because obviously I have not played the game, but is this feeling that there is a fairly, you know, fleshed out lore and kind of world that's happening, already created, but that I am very free to add things to it. That it is not set in stone, that what I want to bring into play is fully valid and relevant because I've made the decisions that I've made.
That's the plan. That's at least my goal. I've got 7 things which are written in stone, which are those divine monuments, the Daoliths. But like, yeah, if you're like, we're going to this village and we've decided that this village has decided they're going to declare themselves a country, what happens because of that? Like, that's fully, yes, that's exactly where I'm at. Where like, there's some big stuff that's set in stone and everything else you encounter kind of as you go.
Yeah, it tells me that players are very welcome to participate in that world building, that it is not just like you sit down and you play in a world where the GM has written all kinds of notes and lore and everything, that like you are invited to participate in building the world that you're playing in.
I genuinely hope they feel that way.
It does feel like there's a lot of agency given to the players for their characters and how the mechanics actually flow as well, because you have these approaches with how to do things in the game. So you can say, well, I'm a very daring character. Let me do this in a daring way. And here's how I'm justifying that I'm using my daring talent with this skill. And if you can have that conversation and justify it, you live your best life and go for it. That sounds amazing to be able to have that sort of freedom.
I love that kind of like pick which stat you roll with situations. Like, as long as you can justify it to me why you're doing it that way, go for it.
Yeah. I truly am that GM too. I truly am that GM. It's like, yeah, that sounds like adaptability. Do it. Yeah, go for it.
I think it comes out with like really creative solutions to problems too, to be like, I want to use this stat. And,
there have been some spells cast in this game.
Yeah.
There have been some. I can't scold my players for knife pain because knife pain was an NPC. And so I did that one, but flying shark, I accidentally gave them the word shark and our cavalier had the word flying. So she did just cast flying shark. That was my fault. I should not have given her the word shark.
The spell casting wealth of opportunity is just, it's endless. And like, I want to see that.
And open to interpretation is fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
I want the spells to feel more like in a lot of games, magic is an expression of the world's lore. And I want this more to feel like an expression of your character's lore. Like,
yes.
I want spells to feel like an expression of how your character views problems, solves problems, or even like magically kind of what their spirit is like.
Yeah. And I think that goes along with characters really getting to feel individualized in that, like, no two characters are going, even like in the same class, are going to solve problems the same way. You know, because we talked about the variations on Ryan's character, that you can have this like old pirate type, you can have a swashbuckling rogue, you can have this, musical over-the-top magical girl kind of thing. And none of them are going to solve a problem in the same way. And so the fact that it is just based on those keywords and things really allows you to adapt to the way that your character would look at and handle a situation.
Yeah.
That's so much what I want. That's so what I want in play in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really does like tickle my min-max brain as well a little bit.
Right. Yeah, even though it's not stats, it's still like
I have that brain too.
I am very tempted to have a character that is just all in on one stat and just be like, how can I justify only using this stat in every situation I'm in?
How can I just be so daring?
Yeah. But the thing is that, like, even in that case, though, you're min-maxing by doubling down on who your character is and their personality.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, you're min-maxing by taking daring actions.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of how I felt, which is why I set 4 as the max instead of like a more modest 3. Because I was like, if a player truly wants to just like use adaptability for everything,
let them.
They're like, I am okay with that character leaning very hard into their player just exclusively doing things on the fly.
Yeah.
And that honestly sounds great to me. I'm down for it.
Yeah. But I think it is a game where those stats really do tell you who your character is. You know, like we always come back to D&D, but like you can fully fill out a character sheet in D&D and have no concept of your personality or, who you are, where you came from or anything like that. Whereas that the stats in this really do tell you, again, like so much of it is how do you problem solve? Like not just these are the things I can do, but it's like, how do you use them? What do you,
Yeah.
what do you do when you can't do things?
Mm-hmm.
This is
Yeah,
the part
I
of
do
the
like
show
that a
where
lot.
we tell you about why we like your game. This is
I'm so glad.
just-
I'm really very, very glad. I'm glad that you enjoyed character creation with me. It made me happy.
Yes. You sit and listen while we say nice things, okay?
I'm so bad at that.
It's uncomfortable.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that.
Okay, just me back here again. So abridged banter as normal. This game is, again, fantastic. Really enjoyed having this discussion with Cat and hearing about more about how the game was developed and Cat's origin story as well. But I cannot wait for people to hear the fanfic in next week's episode. It is truly a fantastic one. So absolutely stick around for that. But before we let you go for the day, here is our calls to action. First up, in exciting One Shot Network news, we have yet another new show joining us today. Roleplay Retcon is a show that takes bad movies and makes them better through the magic of TTRPGs. They have been around almost as long as we have, since December of 2018, so there is a good-sized backlog for you to dive into right now. The first new episode since joining the network comes out on Wednesday, and it looks like they collabed with the other new show on the network, Gamewoven, for this one. It sounds pretty fantastic, so head on over to oneshotpodcast.com to learn more about them and check out their feed. There's even more news coming from the network later this month, so stay tuned here in the coming weeks to get the full scoop. If you like what we are doing here and want to support our show directly, please head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/charactercreationcast and sign up for any of our basic tiers as a free trial. Each level has a ton of great rewards associated with it. We have exclusive stickers, custom dice, exclusive bonus episodes from time to time, as well as chit-chats, among other great rewards. We also have bonus outtakes for all the patrons, including the free ones, so now is a great time to sign up and help us out in the process. We also like to thank all of our patrons personally every episode. You all mean the world to us, so let's go ahead and get this started. DJG, aka Tigranosaurus, Eric Bonson, Diddle Holiday II, thank you all so much. Thanks to Shadim Cabal, the Shyest Barbarian, and Benjamin Sweeney, we are so glad to have you backing us. Lorcan McInnes, Rob Fletcher, and Kevin Brown, we can't thank you enough, but we will keep on trying. Tentacle Duck, John Adamus, and A3 Sketchpad, you are amazing. Thank you so much. Cole McCallum, Carlos Salazar, and Eric S. You rock. Thank you. Ian Potmeyer, Sorigoth, and Liam G. We are so grateful to you. Thank you. Brian Cullen, Garden GM, and Tanglefoot. You're the best. Thanks. Blue Kryptonite, Danny, and Nicole Trainer. Thank you for supporting our dreams. Thank you to Liam Murray, Kenning, and Brian Kurtz. And Marky Fair and Drew Owen, thank you again for your continued support. And thank you to all of our future patrons. Your support means the absolute world to us. Every bit of support here helps tremendously, and we are incredibly grateful to all of you. If you are already supporting the Patreon or can't afford to do so right now and still want to show your support for the show, the next best way to do so is to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, or even Facebook, and we'll read your review right here and thank you personally. That's all we have for today's episode. Next episode, we finish off the series and get into our amazing fanfic. Please check it out. Cat was fantastic. But until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe, drink some water, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for part 1 of this discussion series. We'll be back in part 2, picking up right where we left off.
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.